Hi, this is Bob Brown, and welcome to my Facebook and YouTube channel. This is March 25th, 2017. March Madness. March Madness is underway. More games. I'm going to watch them. I'm going to drink my coffee. That's how I roll. When I say it's because sports fans, it's short for sports fans. Sports fans, we have really got to get a handle on the problems in the world today before they go completely out of control. So I hope in this video series I'm going to be doing on the West, Islam, negaholics, and psychopaths resonates with people. And you'll see that this all ties together. Now, I'm a doctoral student in business administration. I do IT, cybernetics, artificial intelligence, and business organizational designs. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a medical person. Basically, everything here is my opinion, but I try to back it up with some information. And when I do anything scholarly, I will have the obligatory 600 citations that are necessary. But these are just freehand. So let me start off. And Microsoft wants to update OneDrive. So let me update OneDrive for Microsoft. By the way, Microsoft's new technology, I really love it. Thumbs up. I'll talk about that in a different video. However, let me start off with this book. And this is going to be about Islam, by the way, this whole video. And this, I hope this isn't mirror imaged. This is Managing Human Resources by R. Gomez, David B. Balkin, and Rarty. This standard human resource textbook, managers know. IBM announces that IBM recently made a major change to its employee bonus, 50,000 plus employees around the globe. According to the company announcement, all eligible employees will participate in a single worldwide one IBM profit sharing pool. That makes sense to me. I mean, if you're a global company, everyone should share and share alike. We will no longer base results on separate unit-specific pools. This means that employee bonuses are linked to IBM's worldwide profitability with the objective of improving cooperation and integrating the workforce across national boundaries. Now, I know the paleocons and the nationalists are going to say, "Oh my God," but that's how it works. If you know, and as a computer person, for generations we've worked with people all around the world. So, so there you have it. There's IBM. So what does that have to do with terrorism and psychopaths and cats knocking things off the table here? So let me introduce to you another book, a book I highly, highly recommend. I'm not the best person at this. Islam Without Fear, Egypt and the New Islamists by Raymond William Baker. Islam Without Fear. Raymond William Baker is the author. Egypt and the New Islamicists. I highly, highly, highly recommend you read this book. Because all you're getting is, you're getting two distortions of Islam. The first distortion you get is everyone's a jihadist out to kill us all. The second distortion you get is, the second distortion is that everything that's going on in Islam is okay. Those two polar opposites don't make sense. There are people in Islam, the New Islamists, apologize, that are trying to make their nations better. I'm just going to read from a section of this book. I'm going to read from the opening. This is from the introduction by Raymond William Baker. This will be short. This book tells the story of a group of centrist Islamist intellectuals who call themselves the New Islamic Trend. They think of their intellectual school as an outgrowth of the centrist Islamic mainstream, or, and I apologize in advance for mispronouncing this, as wasatiyya. The group is driven by a positive mainstream vision, which they affirm in thought and practice rather than by defensive fears. Rooted in Egypt, the New Islamists address the considerable influence the broader with considerable influence, should be a comma there, the broader Arab Islamic world. Their work poses a central question addressed in this book, whether an Islamic project of the center, speaking for an Islam Without Fear, can address effectively demands of our global age. So we saw in this book, you know, we have to work across national borders. We have to. I believe in national borders. I believe that people should have the right for self-determination, and I don't believe that a new Soviet Union or European Union is the best way forward. However, having said that, global organizations have to exist in order for us to have the products, goods, and services we have. So we're caught in this kind of dilemma of where, are we going to, where, and I don't think it's a problem. You can have a global organization across national borders, and people all work for the same goals of the business. I don't think that's a problem. I think it's a problem when you try to invert that, but we'll talk about that later. So there is a centrist movement. You don't hear a lot about the centrist movement. They're not given a voice. I'm not sure why. Well, they don't sell newspapers. So I'm trying to give the centrist Islamists a voice on this channel. I'd like to interview people. I have them come on. But this is a great book. Second book I want to introduce is Anything by Bernard Lewis. Bernard Lewis is a scholar on Islam. Sorry, again, I'm not doing this a good job. This is a book, From Babel to Dragomans, Interpreting the Middle East by Bernard Lewis. And he's also the author of the international bestseller, What Went Wrong. You really can't do any Islamic reading or study without encountering Bernard Lewis. I encountered him in the 70s and in his scholarship. Highly recommend Bernard Lewis. He's a good, stable voice on Islam. He's not a hysterical person on either side of the Islamic debate. A great scholar. Another book I want to just bring to your attention is how much Islam has contributed to your life, whether you're in the Middle East or in the West. And this is a translation of the Algebra of Abu Kamil. I'm not going to pronounce it because I'll just gibber it up. And commentary by Mordecai Finzi. So this is a text on algebra. I'll read just briefly from this book. This was, this edition is, I'll just read from the fly flap here. In the slow and painful evolution of modern mathematics, the Arabs hold a distinguished place, inheriting from the Babylonians a practical and concrete approach to mathematics. They adapted and absorbed the more theoretical Greek outlook in a synthesis of abstract thought and practical demonstration, from which evolved modern scientific methodology. One of the most important of the earliest Arab innovators was Abu Kamil, the first medieval algebraist whose Arabic writings we possess. In this volume is presented for the first time the most accurate surviving text of Abu Kamil's algebra. So, algebra from Islam. So these are just certain books that I bring to your attention. Going on Baker's work here, on Baker's work, we've got to get to a point of Islam without fear, and that's from both sides. Now, in my commentaries, this is my editorial here. Gotta get some coffee. That's how we roll. I think Ethiopian coffee is the best in the world, by the way. Here in Bloomington, you can get Ethiopian coffee. Man, is it good stuff. So, see, if you're a nationalist, I think if you can be a nationalist and love your country, but still admire other nations and other cultures. I think what people get mad at is when you try to smush it together and you don't have a say in it. But my commentary is on negaholics and psychopaths. And Dr. Rubin wrote a book called The Angry Book, and I have it, but I don't have it here on the table. So he wrote a book about The Angry Book, and I really recommend you reading that book. It talks about slush fund anger, like you've been pushed down, or you've been beaten up your whole life, or you've been abused, or you have a boss that terrorizes you, and you have one boss after another boss that terrifies you, and you get this slush fund of anger just building up in the subconscious and the conscious mind, and just building up in that part of your mind. By the way, I believe in the subconscious mind. There's good old Sigmund Freud, Totem and Taboo. There's a lot of psychologists that, I've never read that book. You should read Totem and Taboo by Freud. You have to read that. It's the underpinning of a lot of stuff in psychology. But, so think about what's happened to Islam, the Middle East. An ill-fated war by George Bush and with faulty information by the CIA leads them blundering into the Middle East. The UN weapons inspector Hans Blick said during the build-up to the second Iraq war, there's no evidence that they have weapons of mass destruction. And so Blix, the UN weapons inspector, the scientists say, There's no evidence. We have no evidence. And of course, the CIA comes over and says, Mr. President, you're going to believe us or your lying eyes. He believed the CIA, and the United States blundered in. Now, after they blunder into Iraq and it turns into a complete mess. Now, Saddam Hussein was not a nice guy. Everybody in the Middle East knows that better than I do, and every Iraqi knows that 100 times better than I do. But suddenly the Iraqis now they don't have one Saddam Hussein to mess with. They got about 100. So think about that from perspective. 1 million people probably got killed. How do you make up for that? How does my subconscious or the consciousness of the United States, how do we deal with the death of 1 million people? I mean, it bothers me. It bothers me every day. I pray for those people. I pray for myself. You know what I pray with? By the way, I use this book. Because I'm a Christian, I'm not pushing The Spiritual Exercises of St. Ignatius. Highly recommend The Spiritual Exercises of St. Ignatius. So, but how do you deal with that? Now imagine you're Iraqi, and your business has been blown up, your family's been blown up, your children are in graves, your wife's got her leg blown off. You might be a little upset. You might be goddamn upset. Think of the slush fund anger from Rubin's concept. That slush fund anger that's built up into a complete rage in your mind. Just a complete rage against the West and what they did to me. Can you imagine that? Imagine it was in business terms. If someone came in and just blew up your business, I mean literally knocked shelves down, took a forklift and beat it up and blew it up, and then they come up to you and say, how you like your business now? Isn't it better? I mean, that's the same equivalency. So you would naturally become what I would call a negaholic. You would have just nothing but negative thoughts in your mind. Nothing. Your mind would be consumed with negative thoughts. And then along comes a psychopath, ISIS. They got you. Because psychopaths, as I said in other videos, they are highly adept puppeteers. They will grab on to people with negativity problems, negaholics like myself. I'm a negaholic. They'll grab a hold of anyone with depression who are easily manipulated. And if you're sitting on the side of the road and your family's been blown up and you just buried your children, and an ISIS operative walks by and says, you know what, I can help you get back at the people that did this to you. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? You know what you're going to do. You're going to stand up and walk with that guy. That's what's happened. That's what the West has unleashed in the Middle East. There is no way, like any divorce or any destructive relationship, you can't say it's all them and it has nothing to do with me. That doesn't work, folks. It doesn't work. So, we've got to step back from these two psychopathic extremes. ISIS and the warmongering West. That's what we have. We have two extremes. The warmongering West and ISIS. They're interlocked. They're inescapably interlinked because of this. Well, how are we going to do this? Well, like I said in the first opening here, as business people, remember we read this opening about IBM, we got to show that it's profitable for me, for the guy in Egypt, the guy in Lebanon, the guy in Tunisia, the guy in Iraq, the guy in Iran, the guy in etc., Russia, etc. We've got to team up as business people and create businesses, and we don't have to destroy our national borders or our national identity. We can roll the way we want to roll. Everybody should roll the way they want to roll. I wish that was Ethiopian coffee. I really wish it was, but it's good. It's not bad. So we have got to get these psychopaths out of our life, out of our business, out of everywhere. So I'm hoping to show people that Islam, there are centrist voices in Islam. They exist. And if there's one thing people in the Middle East are good at, it's good at business and trading. They're 10 times better at it than me or you or anyone else in the West. Hell, they practically invented it. So we've got to get to this point of Islam without fear. We can't listen to the fear-mongering. Now, that doesn't mean to turn a blind eye on terrorism. That doesn't mean to turn a blind eye on radicalization and self-radicalization. That's a super big problem. I wrote my master's capstone on it in business, how to detect, radicalization. And that radicalization could be political. It could be that a person turns to a competitor within your organization. It could be, a terrorist. But we've got to support the centrists. But there's no one out there supporting the centrists. And believe me, the best way to support the centrist Islamists and the centrist Westerners like myself, I hope I'm a centrist, is money. Money is the universal language, folks. It's the universal language. Everyone wants to make money. Everyone wants to have a business that works and thrives and helps their family. Everybody wants that. And speaking as a man, all men want a successful business. They want money. They want to support their family. They want, and this is whether you're an Egyptian, an Iranian, a Jordanian, or, a hillbilly like me. All men, we want to take care of our families, support our families, give our families good things. That's what we do. And we're not going to do it this way, because the psychopaths running both sides right now, they're running the table on both sides. They're not going to let you and I make money, folks. They're not going to let you and I. They're making too much money with death and destruction. Why would they let us in on the game? They're not going to let us create an organization that allows us to tap into programming talent in Jordan or Iranian and Iran or Youngstown, Ohio. They don't care. So we've got to get beyond the psychopaths and all this mass media. If it's Al Jazeera, if it's Al Qaeda's magazine, if it's CNN, if it's Fox News, all this negativity feeding into your mind, making you a negaholic. And once you're a negaholic, and I'm a negaholic, I'm a recovering negaholic. It's just like being an alcoholic. Once you understand what's happening to your brain, what I call slow motion hypnosis. This is slow motion hypnosis. Once you understand the slow motion hypnosis, and most of the time slow motion hypnosis is a bad thing. I could do a video on how you can do slow motion hypnosis on yourself to reverse all this, and then you keep it going. How do you keep it going? I recommend the spiritual exercises of St. Ignatius. If you're a Christian, even if you're a Muslim, I would recommend this book, by the way. And I read a lot of the Sufi mystics as well. You can learn a lot from the Sufi mystics, but today we're going to talk, I'll just promote that book, but later I'll promote books on Sufism. However, so once you're a negaholic, you're going to be easy prey for a psychopath. And so you have to get out of this negative thinking. How do I get out of this negative thinking? Have a positive idea. Like I said earlier, in this book on human resources, create a business. Even if you just create a business, if you're down and out and if you're in the Middle East and your world's been destroyed, start thinking about your business. Start thinking about your future. Have faith in yourself. Have faith in your future. It doesn't matter. I know what the West has done to you. I know what ISIS has done to you. But you have got to get out of that mindset. We all do. Start making your business plan. Because you say, well, I always wanted to do this. Whatever that is. I always wanted to be a merchant. I always wanted to run my own store. I always wanted to be a computer programmer. I always wanted to be a doctor. I always wanted to, be a radiologist. And I think right now in the Middle East, a great plan is portable medical setups where you can go get people the help they need. It'd be a target for terrorism, I understand. But start creating these ideas. Don't be afraid to put them on paper, or don't be afraid to put them in your mind if you can't write them on the paper because you're afraid. Start writing them down. And together, business people, we can start joining together to forging business alliances between these nations and these shattered nations to put people back to work, to be productive, to give themselves hope for the future, to build better lives. That's the only way. My dad was a Marine, and I'll finish this up. And he said that all the Air Force and everything can do is they can go in there and bomb and blast and destroy. They can't create. That's the hard part, fans. Destruction is easy. Creation is difficult. Anyone who try to start a business or try to write a term paper or try to create a new program, you know how hard it is to create. It's easy to destroy. I mean, you can easily, with one wave of your hand, you can knock all your terminals off your desk, and you can destroy easily with one wave of your hand. Trying to build those terminals with your hands is vastly complex. We've got to turn the tide. Look at Baker's work here. Islam Without Fear, the new centrists. Start thinking positive. Get the negaholics out of your mind, because if you don't, on whatever side of the political spectrum or religious spectrum you're on, the psychopaths will clamp onto you. You've got to learn that. So on this channel, let's start building ideas to cross these national divides, these religious divides, these cultural divides, and let's start making money, making prosperity for our families and hopes for the future. This has been Bob Brown, and as I always tell people, please keep studying. Studying is the answer. Education is the answer for today's problems.